Things happening in Santa Clarita this weekend is the 30th anniversary celebration of the Santa Clarita Valley Domestic Violence Center. And joining me in studio to talk about that, one of the founders and the current office manager, we have Katie, Hartnick.
Yes.
There it is, Katie Hartnick. She's the office manager at the Domestic Violence Center of Santa Clarita. And we also have one of the founders, Barbara Cochran, who was here yesterday.
Barbara.
And she is back. And you refrain from saying this is the senior hour, because we're not on the senior hour.
I will try. Yeah. I will honestly try.
So a cool event happening the 24th. So Katie, will you talk to me a little bit about the event, and then we'll talk to Barbara about some of because Barbara's one of the founders. So we want to talk about how it's changed, how it started, and stuff like that. But I want to talk about the event first.
Sure. So it's going to be this Saturday, August 24th. It's from 4 to 6. It's at our new location, which is Savia in Newhall. So we've had a few transitions of different office spaces, and in April we moved into the new Savia building, which is really great. We're around a few other nonprofits as well, so it's going to be a really great space for us to have the event also. We've been going back and digging up a lot of history, which has been hard to find going back 30 years. But we've been contacting all of the old board members, presidents, directors, those who have been affiliated in the past, to invite them to come. So we're hoping to have a really nice reunion of all the people that helped build the Domestic Violence Center as well.
And it's at Savia, which is a community partnership. It's at 23780 Newhall Avenue for those listening and with their pens.
The old San Fernando Road.
The old, yeah. So those coming back to visit,
yeah. Which is funny because we used to be on San Fernando before we moved to Walnut, so we're actually pretty close from our initial location 30 years ago.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so speaking of our initial location 30 years ago, Barbara, you're one of the founders. And talk to me a little bit about how it started.
Okay. The Santa Clarita Valley Community Health Council was started in approximately 1971, 72. And the main reason it was started is because this community had no mental health services out here at all. And a group of nonprofits got together and decided we need some assistance up here. And through those efforts, we got county mental health up here, believe it or not. And during that time, the community hotline was reinstated. It existed for quite a few years prior to that, but then it kind of went down. So we got it started again. And through that hotline, we started getting drug problems, alcohol problems, domestic violence problems, and one of the biggest problems that we had in this valley is that denial. We don't have any drug problems here. We don't have any domestic violence. Are you kidding? That happens somewhere else, not here. Well, we did quite a bit of research, and my husband, Russ, was one of the members who actually wrote the grant to get the community care center up here, which was a drug and alcohol prevention center. And through some of the calls that the hotline was working with, we started getting more domestic violence situations coming up involving drugs and alcohol, which is very natural. And so the health council decided, wait a minute, we need to look into domestic violence a little bit more, because we had already helped situate a drug program up here, which was very successful. And so a group of us, initially Dr. John Legler, Dr. Lip, and several others, including Joanne Darcy, former Antonovich leader, whatever you want to call her. Anyway, we started going to different shelters in the area. There was one up in Lancaster, a couple down in the valley, and there weren't very many all over the place. I think now there are quite a few more.
Yeah.
And we tried to find out how they were running their centers and what it involved. And we decided in the early 80s, okay, we need to do this, because there was a lot more coming through the hotline and into other people who were involved in the health council, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, the therapists. And so in 1983, the group was formally established. and it was Center to Aid Victims of Domestic Violence. It was a long, drawn-out name. But anyway, and then I think within that first couple of years, we were able to locate a shelter, a large house in the junction of the 126 and the 5 freeway. There was all open space there. And there was a house there that was available. I think it had gone into foreclosure or something, and we happened to pick it up. And that's where the first actual shelter was located.
Okay. And it's grown from there, certainly.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that it's funny. You're like, oh man, it's so great that you're doing this, but I'm so upset that you have to do it.
30
It's
years
kind of
is
one of
great, but
a 30 year celebration is great, but it's kind of like, man, I was hoping you guys be out of business by now, you know.
Right.
Well.
But it's going to be. We're talking about the 30th anniversary celebration of the Domestic Violence Center of Santa Clarita. It's happening this Saturday. And you can still RSVP. You can call 259-8175. You can also go to dvc-scv.org. And I'm talking with Katie Hartnick, the office manager at the Domestic Violence Center, and also Barbara Stearns Cochran, who is the host of the Senior Hour. And also, she is one of the founders. And I wanted to ask you, Barbara, what differences have you seen from it started, and how has it evolved to now?
Wow. There's some big differences, because in the beginning, they had a board, but it was not a very strong board. They had quite a few domestic violence women who have been in domestic violence situations, which really wasn't a good thing at that time, because they were tunnel vision. I think were possibly afraid to get out into the community for fear of letting people know what they went through. And I think that kind of hindered the growth at the beginning. And I think in the very early 90s, Steve Schmidt came on board, and he worked for Newhall Land and Farm. And Steve was a big factor in bringing in more people who were local, who were community people, who were able to spread the word that we need assistance out here. We have a problem out here. And I think Katie can give you a lot of statistics. I mean, the statistics are high even for the last year. It's just amazing.
And you would think that with services that it would decrease, but every year it just increases, because we're getting the word out so much more every year that we're seeing so many more people come in that would not have come in previous.
Okay.
And domestic violence covers a broad spectrum. I mean, it's not the low income or the middle class. It's even in the affluent areas.
Yeah.
In this community. And the women who come to the center for help here don't go to the shelter here.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
go outside of the area.
Other places, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Which
And
is good.
It's also good just to mention that we don't just work with Santa Clarita women. We do all of LA County, all of Kern County, part of Orange County. So we see them come from all the different areas to get services at our location. And looking at Santa Clarita specifically, there isn't one city in Santa Clarita, Newhall, Canyon Country or anything like that, where we're seeing more. It's from all the different areas in Santa Clarita.
Yeah. Okay. Oh man.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's really sad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on the positive note, we do a lot of good work.
Yes, you guys help a lot of people.
Everything
yeah.
we do, we help them move forward in their lives so that they don't repeat the cycle, and that their children don't repeat the cycle either. We do a lot of work with their kids. So I know that the domestic violence part, it really has like a negative thought when you're thinking of domestic violence, but what we do is a lot of positive work with the ladies, and we see a lot of change in them too, which is really good for them in the future, now working through the emotional part, and then also just working with their children and building that strong, healthy family relationship.
Well, you have a lot of groups going on, don't you?
Yep. So we do a lot of different groups right now. We have our 16-week domestic violence classes. And that one covers different topics. What is domestic violence? 'Cause sometimes we get women who come in and say, was that domestic violence I experienced? They don't want to admit it, or they're just not sure. And then recognizing the warning signs so that they don't repeat it in the future, dealing with the anger. We do a lot of art therapy with the women at our outreach and their children, as well as the women at our shelter and their children, which is just a way to express themselves through different art formats, which we found really successful. We also do meditation, which I think is good for everybody. It's just different ways to kind of calm yourself down. So when they're out and about and something triggers them and they get really stressed, just a way to bring that stress level back down, which I think anybody.
Yeah, pretty much everybody needs that. Yeah,
exactly. Then we also do parenting. One of the problems too with the ladies is just dealing with the kids too when they're going through their emotional thing. What's the best way? So the parenting helps them with different skills and strategies as well. So it's a way to kind of make them well-rounded all around, dealing with the issues, but also just with the stress, and then with their children. So, and we continue to add more all the time.
I wanted to ask, unrelated to the 30-year celebration, which is happening. So make sure you go to dvc-scv.com.
Yes.
What is the hardest part of is it rehabilitation? Is it because obviously people you said there's a cycle, right? And they go back into this cycle, and is it how hard? I can't imagine how hard it is to get them to turn that switch on and say this is a bad thing happening.
And it takes time. It's never going to be right away. It takes a long time. And when we have women come into us, I tell them it's not going to happen right away. You're going to get to this point where you feel like you're not moving forward because you feel like you're dealing with it, but there's still issues that are coming up, and it takes a long time and a lot of work, especially with the severity of some of them, just getting through it. And I think the hardest thing is seeing them repeat the cycle, end up in another relationship like that, or seeing their children taken away because they couldn't leave that situation and they wanted to stay.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, it has a lot to do with low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the women who get into these situations feel like it's all my fault.
Right.
I caused him to hit me, or I caused him to throw me around.
Right.
And physical violence isn't the only one.
Yeah.
The emotional part of it also.
That's the hardest one.
That is the hardest one. And if you've never experienced emotional violence, it's rough.
Yeah.
Because
it really is.
If you get physical injuries, they can heal and you can work through it. But the emotional part is what really stays with you throughout. That's what you really have to work on. And I know it sounds we're getting really
a little
depressing
bit.
right now. But,
but no, the point is, it's not depressing. The point is the Domestic Violence Center of Santa Clarita helps people that are going through this. And that's what we're here to talk about.
And that's the important part.
Yeah.
And it's really a big deal because a lot of people, like Barbara's saying, they don't like to admit that it's out there, but it is. And what we like to do is just teach everybody a healthy relationship, even the people who necessarily aren't in a domestic violence situation right now, just to prevent it. Because, there's a lot of habits and things that people follow, and we want to try to break that at even the young age, going with the teens and focusing on different things that they do nowadays too, with he texts me 24/7, he must love me so much, that type of control that we see at a young age, trying to break that those aren't healthy patterns, so that it doesn't continue into their adulthood as well.
Oh, man.
There's a lot involved. There really is. It's unbelievable how much is involved in a domestic violence situation, whether it's physical or mental.
Yeah. Thank you guys for stopping by.
Sure.
More information, dvc-scv.com. You can also call 259-8175. You can email info@dvc-scv.org, or they're on Facebook, DVC Santa Clarita, also on Twitter, DVC_of _SCV. So
Did you give the phone number, or
And
did I not hear it?
259-8175.
Yes.
There it is. Thank you guys for stopping by. Thanks for all that
Thank
you
you.
do, and continue. Hopefully you guys go out of business. Sorry to say that. But hopefully you
Wouldn't that be
Hopefully you
wonderful?
yeah.
It really
Yeah.
would. It
Yeah.
would be
For all the right
wonderful.
reasons.
Yeah,
Right.
for all the right reasons. Yeah, excellent, guys. Thank you guys again. That was Katie Hartnick, Office Manager at the Domestic Violence Center of Santa Clarita, and
you.
Barbara Cochran, host of the Senior Hour and one of the founders of the Domestic Violence Center, celebrating their 30-year anniversary this weekend over at
Savia.
Savia. There it is.
Yeah.
Savia, a community partnership, 23780 Newhall Avenue in Newhall.